Okay, we're talking about education now and then. So let's, Dad, what's the prognosis here? I'm going to turn some light on. This is Lunch Talks with Grandad, and we're talking about education now and then. Now, are you an educated man, or are you still craving a little education?
Well, you never stop.
Yeah.
You never stop being educated, that's for sure.
So let's talk about New Zealand in 2012 and what's going on with the state of education.
Well, it actually there was an amazing turnaround in the about 1970. It's a long time ago, but it was obvious to me and to about 3 or 4 others of us in the department.
Department of what?
The Department of Education. I was a senior inspector at that time, and actually I'd been offered the post of Director of Curriculum for New Zealand, which is the second highest job in the Education Ministry. And I turned it down because it was too tough on the family being away from home. I wonder what would have happened if I'd taken it. But however, apart from that, the few of us realised that something was happening in the administration of education in New Zealand.
What was happening?
It was being turned completely around. The new director was determined to get control. He was, that's how I put it, left-wing, atheist and Marxist. No question about it.
Do you happen to know what was the name of the person?
Oh, no, I can tell you that, I think. He was the Director of Education, and it'll come to me in a minute.
Okay.
Newly appointed Bill Reddick. And he took over, but he wasn't alone. They'd been working at this for a while.
Who's the they?
Well, these people who wanted to get control, they centralised education administration. It used to be administered in education boards, about 10 of them around the country, and they were locally elected boards, and they were usually pretty competent people, and they had enough political clout to have to be listened to in Wellington. Well, they wiped them right out.
Whenabouts?
Eh?
Whenabouts?
Whenabouts?
Yeah.
In the 1970s.
Okay.
They got rid of them. Then we had the inspectorate. Now, in the secondary inspectorate, we had a terrific lot of power. We set the curriculum. We worked with the universities and the universities' entrance board to decide, work out really what the curriculum was and how it went. Again, we had groups of ex-teachers, all competent teachers in each of the main centres in the secondary inspectorate, and we had a fair amount of say. And furthermore, of course, secondary schools could come straight to us with a problem and we deal with it. Well, all the inspectorate was disbanded. And so secondary principals and boards had to go to Wellington to get information. All other people had to go to Wellington. The whole thing was centralised under this ministry, which grew and grew and grew. And the people in it were quite deliberately, promoting and preferring their own political or semi-political groups. As an example, in the secondary inspectorate teams, when we found we had a vacancy coming up, we would look around and we would see, oh, Bill Jones is a pretty good, excellent teacher. He's got the right ideas, the right attitudes. We'll ask him. So they'd ask him, and would you join? And he'd say, oh, yeah, okay. This is what happened to me, by the way. And then they would advertise the job in the Gazette, and he would apply, and our senior in the team would tell, although it was the Public Service Commissioner who made the appointment, our head would say, look, Bill Jones is the man we want, appoint him, and he would. So we had teams that we knew and had control of and were doing the right thing, and suddenly it changed. While I was in Auckland actually in the team, they advertised a job and we had sorted up a bloke who would be good. The district senior said, look, we'd like this fellow, and the people in Wellington appointed somebody quite different who was of their persuasion, and he had very little experience too. And this went on 3 times, and suddenly the teams were being infiltrated, and there's nothing we could do about it.
And what period of years is 1970 to when?
Oh, this would be 1968 to about 73.
Mm-hmm.
Very short period. And I retired. We'd fought and fought and fought, and we were getting absolutely nowhere. They more or less took control, and that's when I retired. I just got out of it. It was hopeless. I was fighting a battle, and so were these couple of others of us. We just left.
So what was it that you wanted to do at that time?
We just wanted to continue with a situation whereby curricula were being set up by people in the know. Like, for instance, trades curricula would be set up by groups of tradesmen and people in the trade and people in business who use the trade, and academics. We would set locally, more or less set curricula. And suddenly it was all taken out of our hands. Now, the University Entrance Board controlled the University Entrance Exam, the University Bursaries and Scholarship Exam. And they used to appoint, in their wisdom, a group of specialists in the subject to set the curriculum. I was on several of those for physics, chemistry and mathematics. And we'd have a team of about 30 people, really 30 people up in Lockton House in Auckland, professors from the universities, people from industry who used that subject, and teachers, training college people, everybody who knew about it.
So it sounded like the community was involved from a business, government, and delivery vehicle process being the teaching.
Oh, yeah.
It was a fully involved, integrated product.
Oh, yeah. And
Isn't that happening today?
no, the University Entrance Board, suddenly, they brought in what they call NCEA, the New Certificate in Educational Achievement, that covered those 3 years, and it was set by a group, the Qualifications Authority and the Ministry of Education in Wellington. And university.
And why was that a bad thing?
Oh, it's hopeless. The bursaries and scholarship and entrance exams and their curricula, and also all the trades exams in the technical institutes, which have been set by people in the business, was wiped. And the whole examination pattern was dictated by a group in Wellington who, quite frankly, didn't know what the hell they were doing. And that still operates today. They call it NCEA. It's a disaster.
So fast forward to 2012, and you've been sitting on the sidelines, so to speak, but you've also been reading and writing, and you're putting letters to the editor and one thing and another. What, it's okay to look at something and say, look, it's broken.
Yeah.
Understanding that it is broken, and perhaps even those in the NCEA, I'm getting my acronyms mixed up here, would admit that it wasn't as good as it could be, perhaps.
No, well, they wouldn't admit that.
Okay. Well, assuming they did, what would the solution be? Some minor solution steps and some major solution steps. What's really needed here?
Well, I've thought about that, and I've written to a few people about it. You've virtually got to sack the whole of the Ministry of Education, top to bottom.
Bit radical.
Of course it is, but they're everywhere in it. They've infiltrated and put all their own people in there, and to get them out is an almost impossible task. Now, the ACT Party suggested charter schools, which were sort of schools run by businesses, private enterprise sort of thing.
Well, business-fied schools, yeah. We have them in the States.
And I thought, oh gosh, this is not what we want. We've got to set up, revamp the national system, which had been very, very good. In fact, before 1970, we were recognised probably one of the top educational countries in the world. We used to get people from America, Australia, the United Kingdom, come to us to see how we did it. But to get rid of the whole of the education ministry today, I looked at virtually impossible. So I suddenly switched and I suddenly thought, well, these charter schools might be a way of getting the public generally to see what is needed and how it can go, and to, in other words, to make the Ministry of Education redundant almost.
To actually show them for what they are, which...
But whether that'll happen or I don't know. But you see, you've got schools like Auckland Grammar, which doesn't do NCEA, it does an examination from Cambridge in England. And it is just doing its own thing. It is also, of course, here's another thing, it's paying its teachers, good teachers, extra money. Now the other thing is that in our system, teachers were paid according, one, to their qualifications, two, their length of service, and three, their ability or capability, or, you know, how they performed. And they were on separate scales, salary scales, which went up and up and up according to their performance. Well, they wiped all that, everybody just on the same salary scale.
How can that be fair or reasonable for those?
No, it's not. But there's a teacher and he says, oh, well, no point in stretching myself because it doesn't do me any good.
Well, I think possibly even worse than that, some of the gifted teachers would actually opt out of the system at some point.
Exactly. Oh, boy, don't worry. The quality of teachers has gone way, way down.
But there are still some good teachers.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of very dedicated teachers. But the overall quality, there's some absolute shockers in the schools. Should never be in front of children at all. But they can't be removed, and their salary is the same as anybody else's.
So in the short term, there's a conundrum. Basically, to dismantle the existing system is almost too drastic.
Well, it's not too drastic, but it's impossible.
Okay, so it's not too drastic. It would be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And so the alternative is perhaps bringing up a second string, charter schools, and allowing them the power to grow, and then seeing hopefully the people by their choice would say, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can
And how would you play into this? If you were to play into it today, what would your piece of the puzzle being, based on their education that you've gone through and based on where you've been? Would it be curriculum based? Would it be teacher evaluation based? What piece is near and dear to you?
Well, you have got somehow or another to pay teachers according to their experience, their qualifications, and their performance or ability. Now, this does not depend on examination results. Now, see, when we were inspecting, and when we gave teachers a grading mark, his salary, or her salary, his or her ability to apply for higher jobs were all affected by that mark that we gave. It was critical, absolutely critical to their future career and their salary. Now, how do we give them that mark? On exam results? No, we didn't even look at them. It was quite unimportant. Quite unimportant.
The exam results of the children they were teaching was unimportant?
Yep.
Please explain.
Well, we'll take a case. I actually mentioned this to somebody where I was teaching J.J. Stewart at New Plymouth Boys High. Brilliant guy. Took the agricultural course, and parents from all around North Island virtually heard of John Stewart's ag course, and if they had a child that was disruptive, not getting on, or very, very slow learner or something like that, and if they had the money, they used to send him boarding to New Plymouth Boys High to join the agricultural course. John Stewart had all sorts of dregs. His exam results were pitiful because they didn't have the ability. But virtually every one of those boys left the school as a well-rounded, helpful, law-abiding, decent citizen.
And what's the problem with this?
Well, John Stewart was a brilliant teacher. His exam results were hopeless, simply because he didn't have the raw material to work with.
So how did he get graded?
He got very good grading from us. As I say, we never looked at exam results. They're not important.
Yeah.
They're not important. What is important is the reaction between the teacher and those kids.
So you're even verging on a community involvement here.
Yeah. But no, not quite. An educated community involvement. See, in curricula, we'd have experts in that particular field. Not any Tom, Dick or Harry. When we had education boards that used to administer primary schools, the people who got elected locally were almost always leading citizens, one way or another. So it was an educated group from the community that ran it, not just the whole bunch, because they're hopeless. Pardon my French.
So let's back up here. So do you think we're lost today, or do you think we just need redirection in our education process?
At the moment, we're lost.
And is that politically lost?
It's not political. It's not political in the party political sense. This happened no matter what party was in power. That was nothing to do with it. Although Labour Party generally were easier for these people to manipulate. But the present government is not a Labour government, but it's being manipulated. It hasn't got... The Ministry of Education has run itself, and it's run riot against anything at all since the 70s. And it's still doing it.
Well, we need to continue this, but for the time, that's it.